All right, story time. Let's talk about some of the things I've learned in some of my toxic relationships. First thing I want to say about any toxic relationships is they usually come because of the things that we've gone through when we were younger. We've got our parents, they've got their own damage, and we start to look for the same kind of things in our relationships. I don't think a lot of us or enough of us realize that we actually do that. That's usually what's going to end us or lead us to a lot of these toxic things. So, even just straight after high school when I actually started dating people. Somehow I luckily managed to avoid it through high school, but then afterwards I definitely made up for it. When I'd find these people, I'd be attracted to people that, looking back, were all pretty much all toxic and abusers. They'd be the kind of people that want to control and to manipulate people. And for me, that was because, as I've said in previous videos, I literally grew up empathetic and trying to work out how to serve the people around me. I was giving almost to a fault. It was like a giving to avoid actually taking. Well, really, it was giving and avoiding taking responsibility to try and protect myself so that I wouldn't get rejected because I was so scared without realizing it of being rejected that I'd just go for the first of all, unfortunately, the lowest hanging fruit, but secondly, the kind of people that were just fake. I was used to fake people. I was used to people that lie to my face, and I only began to realize this as I got older. So, one of the situations I had with one of my first long term partners was literally knowing that if they went away, if they went to another state, who cares? They went on a trip away. I was like, if you go, we're done completely. That's it. When they came back, I hung around, left them stay in the house. I didn't actually stick to what I said I'd do, which is my biggest issue there. I should have done it right there. I ended up moving into another house with them and everything. Completely stupid. Maybe even two houses. Completely crazy. But when they went away, I should have left it there because I knew that it was done at that point. When they came back, they literally lied to my face about seeing one of their exes while they were away. I knew there were red flags. I caught them red handed. I didn't believe when they completely lied to my face, especially because of how they did it. It was the most disgusting way you could lie to somebody. And I still hung around. I still left myself get abused because I was used to that pattern from my past. I hadn't healed that trauma yet. Unfortunately for me, straight after that relationship, I found somebody that was actually probably worse because it was less open what they were doing. The next person ended up literally telling me that they loved me. I told them I needed a few days to think about it because it's something in their life that I had to make sure I was fine with because I didn't want to be like one of my parents. So then they decided to go and sleep with one of my friends. That should have been the end of that. I should have never gone back to that. I'm glad I did because I've learned a lot of lessons. I'm telling you though, it's not worth the hurt. It's not worth the pain. You should see these red flags. You should see these things that you're doing, and you should just run and work on yourself. That is the answer to all of this stuff. When these things come up, figure out what it actually says about you. Figure out what it is in your past that you need to deal with, that you need to work on, and go and work on it. The work hurts. Admitting that this stuff is happening hurts. Believing the negative things about these people completely hurts because I would hope that most of us want to believe the best of people. I would hope that most people want to give people a chance. There's only so many chances we can give people though. At some point we need to realize how much it's hurting us, how much it's literally killing us, and we need to cut this stuff off. From there I ended up drifting around doing whatever I wanted for a long time and ended up with probably one of the most toxic people. And my reaction and my great idea was to get engaged to this person. This is a few years back. And I literally, well, one night I was literally sitting on their driveway. They were doing everything they could, just trying to get a rise out of me, trying to get a reaction. They were doing everything they could and saying everything they could in the worst ways possible to try and get me to flare up, to try and get me to say something to them. I had one line at that point, and as soon as they hit that line, I put them straight in their place. And I think that both scared them, but also gained their respect. That's what it comes down to. We need to figure out where our boundaries are, where our lines are, and they're actually a non-negotiable. We need to let the people around us know, especially if they're abusing us, especially if they're using us, that this is my line. You won't say this about that thing. You won't do this thing to me, whatever it is. If we don't find those lines and don't have those barriers, these abusing people are going to run over them every single day. No matter what, they're going to test them. So we need to be strong. We need to be confident. We need to keep pushing back. A boundary is a boundary for a reason. It's something that shouldn't and can't, hopefully can't. It starts as something that shouldn't be crossed. Hopefully we build a wall so that it can't be crossed. Not a wall like a don't let anybody in kind of wall, but a wall where we are actually going to defend this, where we are looking for people that are trying to cross this boundary. That's how our boundaries should work. That's how our boundaries actually manage to keep us safe. I'm just going to talk about boundaries for a bit because that is what this all comes down to. Actually, really quickly, that is another way that we can identify these abuses in our lives. Most of the time, they either don't have their own boundaries or at least they pretend that they don't have boundaries. Because if they haven't got boundaries, then you're not going to think about yours. If they're not giving you non negotiables and stuff for the most part until they start to straight up go direct abuse at you, then you're hopefully not going to think about yours. It's almost like a little magic trick, like a sleight of hand trick where they're saying, look over here while they're doing what they want on the other hand. That's how this stuff works. That's how abusers get in. That's how they trick us. That's how they take advantage of the people that actually care. So what we need to do is sit down. We need to work out the things that actually bother us, the things that frustrate us, the things that we hold near and dear and that we want to keep safe. And we need to work out how to build a boundary around that. If we're not doing that, we are going to get walked over every single time. I don't care how they walk over you. I don't care how far they go past the boundary. That should be a red flag and a problem. That should be more than a red flag. That should be a massive warning sign to you and a huge problem. Something that's telling you that you need to change things in your life or that you need to cut these people out of your life. Now, this same person that I'm talking about that was sitting there yelling at me on the driveway, there we go. She would be pushing these boundaries without me even realizing it. She would subtly be chipping away and also be setting up little ideas and almost implanting little, I've heard people call them spider's eggs in your head before. Spider's eggs in your head are things that are going to sit there and they're going to hatch later. They're going to be things that even when this person's gone, could still hatch then and mess with you. These are things that are toxic, they're venomous, they're creepy and crawly. They get in, they go deep, 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 and they start to, if we're not careful, become a part of who we actually are. That's how these abusive people operate. That's the way that they do this stuff. They'll tell you lies, they'll tell you manipulations, they'll get their ideas subtly woven into your skin, into your head. They'll lay these eggs. When they hatch, they basically have full control. These things will put the cobwebs so that you can't see what's going on through your mind. These things will lay the traps so that you walk straight into the traps with their webs. These things will lay even more animals, even more eggs in your head. Think about what happens when spiders lay an egg in your house. They don't just lay one, they lay tons of eggs. If these things manage to hatch and then have their own children, just think about what that does to our mind. It can completely decimate you. It can leave you in a complete huddle and mess. You need to be looking at these people that go over your boundaries quickly. You need to be making sure that they're not getting their ideas into your head, because once they do that, you're beyond even being controlled. You are basically just a puppet for this person. And if they can work out how to pull these strings and these little cobwebs in the right way, it's actually going to end up causing pain for you. It's actually going to start to hurt you in different ways on different levels than you even understand. That's how this control and manipulation works. That's also, just on a side note, why I'm so careful with the entertainment that I have. I've watched TV shows, had ideas come from these TV shows into my brain, watched these things back when I was like literally 30 something and realized that one little 20-second joke, if that, became a part of my identity without me even realizing. We need to be deprogrammed from the people and the shows and anything that's toxic in our life. There are so many ways that this stuff comes in, takes us over and controls us, and we don't even know what's happening. These people are beguiled, they'll hypnotize us, they'll manipulate and control, they'll weave their ways in, and it's just like hypnotism. That's exactly what this stuff is. They hypnotize us with the thing that we think we want while they're doing that thing with the other hand. Perfect analogy is that magic trick. That's exactly what they're doing. It's all distraction so they can take what they need, what they want, or put in what they want you to think. It's insane. Actually, same thing. This is how that stuff works. I remember watching a clip of a magician one time, and he was walking across the street and there was a lady. I noticed straight away what his trick was. He'd grab her shoulders and massage her shoulders while he pushed down on both her feet a couple of times. By pushing down on her feet, she subconsciously, through the distraction on her shoulders, believed that the weight on her feet was so heavy that she couldn't move her feet. There were literally cars there beeping their horn. I thought it was complete garbage. I went to a friend's house. I tried the trick and it worked on him. I tried it on somebody else and it didn't work because they had a stronger mind. Shout out to Bo. Literally. That first person though, I pushed on their feet while distracting them with the shoulders, while giving them a bit of pressure up here, but more pressure on their feet. They were under control. They were under that spell. They couldn't move their feet for a little bit. I basically had to drag them to make them able to move. I've seen this same trick work with street magicians, with people with a thought. Same kind of deal. I've seen the same thing work with just trying to tell people to think of two shapes. Then they'll think of a triangle and a circle because you've done that shape in front of them. You got to move your hands around first and then it works. Maybe I might have got some of you because I've seen that trick work too many a time. Works so much better if you distract them first. If you thought of a triangle and a circle, let me know in the comments actually. That's probably a good way to see whether this is actually working. I could have done it better. Maybe in another video I'll throw it in. What's another relationship that I had that was garbage? You know what? Even friends. If we're not careful, those same people end up being in our friends circle. They end up being the people that we not necessarily attract to us, but the people that we go looking for. They'll be the people that we accept because they feel safe. We're programmed, literally, same deal. We're programmed by the parenting, by the way that we're raised, to look for these kind of people. If they're going to feel like the nurturer, the savior, the person that's helped us survive while we've been a child, and that person, our parent, has been abusive themselves in their own little ways, if we've been traumatized even better by the things that they've done, whether they're abusive or toxic or not, we are going to look for those people because that's where we feel that comfort is. Until we really dive in, until we really work out what's in our head, until we really work out how this stuff has gone in and been processed by our own minds, we're going to fall for this every time because we're going to bring a circle like that around us. If we're lucky, we start to see the difference and keep good people around us. But chances are that because we've been raised by this stuff and because we've been hurt by this stuff, we're probably acting in a certain way that the good value people are, honestly, it's harsh, but they're not going to want to spend the time with us. They're not going to be able to deal with our garbage. It's that simple. We need to start to flip that script though. We need to start to realize the people that are doing this to us in our lives, or we are going to continue to get run over. We're going to continue to get worse. I say it all the time. It's one of my catchphrases. It's either hard now or it's harder later. That simple. Hard now, much harder later. Even better, I realized the other day, hard now, go to the ER. You're in hospital if you don't work this stuff out now and do the hard work now, harder later. That's how it is. The more that we don't do the work, the more that we cement these patterns and habits in, the more that we bring this stuff into our lives, the more that we weave it into the fabric of who we truly are, the harder it is to start pulling those strings out. It takes a very special person to do the research, to find all of this stuff out, to look at themselves in an objective way and to start to cut this stuff away. It hurts. Doing surgery on yourself, imagine that. You can't knock yourself out. You can't numb yourself too much, or you're not going to know exactly what it is that's going on. That's how you fix this stuff. That's why people need coaches. That's why people need psychologists. That's why people need counselors. Without somebody that's done this work, without somebody that knows the way, without somebody that can show us what to do, when to do it, how to do it, without someone that can hear our mindsets and actually think about how we're thinking, think about what we're speaking, how are we going to change? It is impossible. We need that outside perspective, and it, again, is so hard for us to get that ourselves. That's why people pay people to help them. If you can find somebody that's gone through this stuff, if you can find somebody that knows these things, good. Get the help, get the start, see what happens. That is how you heal. That is the only way to heal. If you can do it yourself, great, even better to you. I really want to talk to you because that stuff is difficult. If we can start to think about how we're thinking about what we're thinking, we are going to be well on our way to be doing that. But again, how hard do you think that's going to be? How hard is it to actually be open and honest and raw with yourself? Because we're trying to protect ourselves from this stuff. If this is about our pain and our hurt and our trauma, we don't want to feel that. We want it easier. We don't want it hard now. We don't think about the harder later. We just want ignore it now and hopefully it goes away. That's how we end up in trouble. That's how we end up toxic ourselves. That's how we flip from actually caring for people to being damaging and to being the damage in somebody else's life. The biggest toxic relationships that I had were the ones that I always brought the closest. Again, realizing that I've done that to myself, realizing that I've been trying to almost repeat that trauma, trying to win. That's what it comes down to. Trying to win and to beat the trauma and the things that have hurt you in the past. The only way to do that is to keep bringing it around you. That's a positive way to look at it. The negative way to look at it is that we've been programmed so much that that is all we know. That is all we want. Are we trying to heal it? Are we trying to win this time? Or are we just literally doing what we know? I don't know. You don't know. Hopefully you can figure it out. But if we can work out where that pattern is, if we can work out what exactly it is that's setting us up for these abusive people, if we can work out the similarities between these relationships, that's why this 15-minute rant on boundaries and what we do in our own minds and why we hurt ourselves so often. That's why this stuff started with some toxic relationships. It's absolutely ridiculous the kind of stuff that we'll deal with. It's absolutely ridiculous the kind of stuff that we'll let people do to us. It's absolutely ridiculous the things that we allow continually in our own lives. If this sounds like you, if this sounds like something that you've been through, if this is a problem in your life, go and find the help. Find the person that can deprogram this. Find the person that can listen to you and figure out what it is that's actually getting, what the root is that's actually getting you stuck in these situations. That is the only way to start to figure this stuff out. It's like our medical industry. We don't want to just throw a bunch of pills and look at the symptoms. We don't want to be literally this little surface level. We need to be digging deeper and figuring out where those roots are, figuring out where this stuff actually started, figuring out what is actually causing the problem. Because if we've got cancer and we're trying to like solve our hair, well, the hair falls out from chemo. If we've got cancer and we're just trying to figure out why we're feeling sore all the time and we're just taking a painkiller to figure out why there's pain, if we're just taking whatever it is to figure out just what is hurting right now, we're not digging down and we're not getting to the actual core of what this stuff is. We're not getting to the heart. We're not getting to what it really is that's truly causing this issue. And if we don't get rid of that, if we never take that away, how are we ever going to actually get better? Figure out where the heart is, figure out what the core of the issue is, dig deep, deep, deep down and back into your past. Have a think about all of the things that you've gone through. Think about the things that have hurt you. Yeah, you might crumble. Yeah, you might cry. Yeah, it might hurt, but good, because that means you can start to actually heal. Healing takes pain. It's that simple. If you've got a broken leg, you can't just let it go in a cast and just fuse itself back together. Eventually you've got to walk on that again, and that can still be painful. You can't just sit around with like a joint that's hurting a little bit. You've got to move it. You've got to do the physio. You've got to do the work, and that stuff hurts a little bit. Whatever it is, just keep moving that little bit. Find the most you can do. That's what it comes down to. Find the most you can do and do it. It's all about work. It's all about moving. It's all about that momentum, because from there you can figure the stuff out. Don't just give up. Don't just let things atrophy. That's how things die. Find your vision, find your cause, move that way. Find the pain, find what hurts, move to it. Figure out why. If you can figure out why, you can actually start to heal it. If you can't do it yourself, reach out to someone like me, reach out to whoever you can, and get the help. That's how it works. Good luck, man. Good luck, guy. Good luck, man. Good luck, girl. Good luck, guy. Good luck, whoever you are. You got this if you keep going at it. Have a nice day.